So we're trying something a little different here, and I just want to bring to your attention that it's not final that Conor McGregor is going to be competing against Dustin Poirier. And welcome back. Conor wants to do this in Cowboys Stadium in Arlington, Texas, with over 50,000 people. Because in January, they're saying they're allowing 50% capacity. So the stadium alone can hold like 100,000 people for a fight. So they're expecting that the UFC would be okay with packing 50,000 people into that arena so they can put on one of the biggest fights in UFC history, because the last time they had 50,000 people was when GSP fought in Montreal, and we know how that was. It was a phenomenal performance, right? But people are saying that there's two camps. There's the people that are like, I would love to go see a Conor McGregor fight. There's the other aspect of people saying, hell no, I'm not going to see a Conor McGregor fight during the COVID outbreak. So I really think Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor will be at Fight Island, just because they can have maybe like 50 people show up or something. But I believe this fight is going to be very different than the first fight. Dustin Poirier has been on a tear. His last fight was a complete ass whooping. I believe that Dustin is a much better fighter, more confident fighter, and a guy who's not scared to throw down and just get in his opponent's face. And his boxing, I think, might be a little bit better than Conor. I know his cardio is better than Conor's, and we know now that Conor can be susceptible to the takedown, and when he gets taken down, it's a complete shit show, because Conor's wrestling, it's decent at best, but it's not great. We've seen what happened when Khabib took him down at will. We've seen Chad Mendes take him down at will. We don't know if Dustin would really want to take him down and shoot for takedowns, but realistically, what I think Conor would be getting taken down in this fight, I think it'd be more of a stand-up fight. I think Conor is more of a slicker striker, meaning his bobbing and weaving and his ability to throw unique punches is better than Dustin. Dustin is more of a traditional style boxer. When he comes in to fight, his hands up are like a more traditional boxer. But Conor himself has trained and fought the best boxer in the world. But Conor has that crazy left hand that just whoop, whap, whoop, bam, boom, and it just knocks people on their fucking ass. So Dustin Poirier is 26-6, and he has just annihilated a lot of guys. Like I said, he's been on a super big win streak, beating the likes of Anthony Pettis, Justin Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez, Max Holloway, and Dan Hooker. He only lost to Eddie Alvarez in 2017 and losing to Khabib back in September of 2019. So the guy is on a tear. He's beaten Jim Miller. So the guys that he's fighting aren't chumps. They're not crappy ass fighters, and a 26-6 record is not garbage by any means, because he's on that real tear as of late. So the guys that he's fighting aren't weak. He's beating these guys convincingly, and that's the thing that he's doing. And Conor McGregor has a 22-4-0 record, which is still not a bad record at all. A record of 22 wins and 4 losses is not bad, but most of his losses have come by the way of being submitted. So when you look at the guys that he has beaten, he's beaten Dustin Poirier in 2014, beaten Dennis Seaver, which I don't even think competes in the UFC anymore because I haven't heard about him. Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo. Then he lost to Nate Diaz in March of 2016. Then beat Nate Diaz, beat Eddie Alvarez, and lost to Khabib and beating Cowboy Donald Cerrone. And I'll say beating Cowboy, that's really not saying much because Cowboy is at the end of his career, right? Maybe if Cowboy would have fought Conor maybe in his earlier part of his career, maybe in like 2016, maybe 2014, somewhere then, it would have been a different fight. But there's that point where Cowboy shows up and Cowboy doesn't show up. So I just believe that the record shows that Conor McGregor hasn't fought as tough a competition as what Dustin has as of late. Dustin has been fighting the cream of the crop. Dustin, like I said, has been fighting the cream of the crop. You can argue who has a better record, who's a better fighter, but just looking at the last like 8 fights for these guys, on one hand, you have Dustin losing to Michael Johnson, beating Jim Miller, Eddie Alvarez, Anthony Pettis, Justin Gaethje, and Max Holloway, and Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker, I'm not exactly sure if he's really a big ranked guy, like realistically, like to Conor, not like that. But you can't say that Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje, and Max Holloway aren't tougher competition than Conor McGregor fighting Khabib, Eddie Alvarez, and Nate Diaz. Those are the main guys that he fought in the last year. So you take it for what it is, because Conor McGregor has a super big finish rate, okay? He never really goes to the judges' scoring card. He has a 86% knockout rate, 5% by submission, 9% by decision. So barely ever going to decision. 90% of his wins are by TKO stoppage, which TKO or technical knockout. And Dustin Poirier is 12 knockouts for 46% of his wins, and 7 submissions, and 7% of his fights go the way of a decision. But he's mostly known for the knockout. The same thing with Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is known for getting in there and knocking his opponent flat out. But what do you guys think is going to happen in this fight? So with that being said, I like both fighters, and I'm going to have to say my money, if this fight happens, will be in not AT&T Stadium. It's not going to be in front of 50,000 people just because of the COVID. I don't believe so, because there's no way, unless you could test every single person that's going to show up to that event, and I don't believe that's humanly possible that they're going to test everybody. So you would get people to get to the arena, go to the game, and be sick. And even though there's 100,000 seats or whatever, social distancing like 50,000 people, that's hardly unlikely. So I just think Conor versus Dustin will happen. It will probably be in Fight Island. There might be a crowd there, some sort of a crowd, because Dana White has said that Justin Gaethje versus Khabib might have a few hundred people to show up. Maybe 40 people, maybe 100. He says they might be able to bring in some sort of a crowd. But I think at the end of the day, will Conor win this fight? I think he can, if he can keep it standing and he wins and lands quickly and lands a lot in the beginning of the fight, because at the end of the fight, like in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, that's when Dustin's gonna pressure the action, put on a lot of his skills with his cardio, his boxing, and like I said, who's improved the most out of these two fighters? Conor? I don't think so. I think it's Dustin has improved drastically since they last fought. Dustin, like I said, has fought top guys. The only guy he really got outclassed by was Khabib, and we know that's just what happens when you fight Khabib. But I think Conor versus Dustin will go probably to at least the third round, and I'm gonna say Dustin's gonna win this fight because he improved a lot more. He's been more competitive. He's been fighting more, and I think he's just a little bit more hungry than what Conor is. Conor doesn't seem like hungry to become a champion again because Dustin will take fights against smaller opponents like Dan Hooker and just want to get in there and compete. And that's one thing that I noticed that Conor doesn't do. He just wants the big money fights. And when you want the big money fights, you might take months off at a time, like maybe a year off at a time, because Conor hasn't fought in almost, what, 9 months or something like that, 10 months. So Dustin's like, I'm competing still at the highest level. I fought in front of no crowds. I fought in, what did he fight in Vegas? And he completely dominated Dan Hooker. So I just believe the more accurate fighter, the more that you compete at a high level, the more you're going to be ready for that fight. You're going to be ready when the fight comes instead of somebody who's just maybe training. Is Conor training? I don't really know. Is Conor the best fighter? He's one of the best, but I think Dustin, just where their career is at right now, Dustin is just more hungry to get that title and become a world champion and defend that title. Because if Conor wins and Conor gets a title fight and wins the title, I don't believe he's ever going to defend the title. And I don't believe Conor will ever be a champion again. No one's beaten Khabib. I don't think Justin Gaethje's going to beat him either. But this is just my take on the fight. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Will Khabib remain the champion? And will Conor beat Dustin for a second time? Or will Conor get stopped? Or will it go to a decision where Dustin Poirier wins the fight? So as always, this is your boy Trevor back with another MMA breakdown. And like I said, I like both fighters, but I think it's Dustin Poirier's time to shine. We'll see you guys in the next one.